So that's your transition to your main body. Now the main body of your script, to get over here, most important thing for the main body is number one, okay, that it's not front-loaded, which means you don't go in there and start listing benefit after benefit after benefit after benefit, and you become an expert at your product, and you start talking about all the features and blah, 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 blah. And what happens is you end up preaching about your product, and they're just listening, and eventually they tune out, okay? So your script should be short. The body should be no more than, let's say, a half to 3/4 of a page, okay? At which point, when you're done with that, you should have given them one or two very powerful distinctions about your product, okay? And make sure, remember, we don't sell features, and this is basic influence 101, right? We don't sell features, we sell benefits. People are not so concerned about, every feature that a computer might have. What they want to know is that it will make their life easier. It'll make it easier to surf the internet, to find out the things they want. It'll allow them to have more time to spend with their family because they can be more productive. You get it? So you don't sell features, you sell benefits, okay? Now, in terms of the flow of a presentation, it needs to flow seamlessly. In other words, it has to flow in a way where there are certain chunks that sound great, but then there are I call them stopping off points, which are these sections where you have transitions. So if you say a powerful statement, okay, and then you say another powerful statement, and then you say another powerful statement, eventually the three powerful statements start to lose their power. So the idea is after you say one powerful statement, you want to hammer something home, you say to the client, you follow me so far? And they say, yes. You get it? So you want to always say, you follow me so far? Makes sense? Are you with me? Get the person to say yes. On two levels, that's important. Number one is so the person doesn't tune out, because you're just preaching to them versus making it a dialogue back and forth, not a monologue, right? And secondly, because you want to get the prospect into the habit of saying yes. You don't want to be asking questions that might end in no, because the person says no, 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 then you want to get the yes out of them for your actual close is a bit more difficult. Now, understand this, my technique, the straight line, is far more advanced than simply thinking that we can get people to say yes 5 times to simple stuff and that will allow them to close. It's not like that. What I'm saying is you don't want to get somebody into the habit of saying no, okay? When you say, does that make sense so far? They say, yeah, it does. You're in rapport. If you say, does that make sense? They say, no, it doesn't, and you try to go forward, you're out of rapport. You break rapport. All they're saying is, this guy doesn't care about what I'm saying. He's not even listening to me. You understand? So these little stopping off points where you actually say, are you with me so far? Makes sense? And they say, yes, great, boom. It keeps you in rapport. Okay? Next, the use of what I call colloquialisms. And these are, what it really means is speaking in layman's terms. You don't want to speak in a way that it sounds like it's canned and it's actually a script. You want to sound natural, like you're speaking to a friend, speaking to someone that you want to connect with emotionally and not just logically. Now, along with that, with colloquialisms, remember, you still need to come off like an expert, so there's a balance to be struck. It's not all like, hey, blah, 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 where you're like these, dems, do's, and don'ts, like a Brooklyn guy who's not educated, right? You still want to sound educated like an expert, but don't try to talk above somebody and all these little buzz phrases that end up losing their power and the person tunes out, okay? So use colloquialisms and make it sound natural, but always remember that when you're influencing, you need to be perceived as the expert, okay? Next point here, with scripts, the best way to master a script is to actually practice by reading the scripts out loud. And the way I do this, especially in the beginning when I'm developing a script, and I get paid, let me tell you, big money to write scripts for companies, where I go in there and their scripts are awful, and I go and I redo the whole thing, and for me, it's a painstaking, lengthy process. But what I do is I'll write the first generation of a script, then I'll actually go out and start working with the sales force. In fact, there's some footage here that I'm going to cut to, which will show you me actually doing this in one of the companies I was working with, and you'll actually see me going with a script that wasn't quite perfect, and now I read back and forth to people, and I listen to them, and I hear what words are giving them trouble, meaning tongue twisters, what sentences aren't flowing correctly, what transitions are awkward. Then I rewrite the script and go back and train with them again until I make sure that every single word in the script flows seamlessly. And anybody, not just the top salesman there, can say it well. Anyone can say it well, okay? So for that, to that end, it's really, one of the key elements is what I call balance. In other words, the script has to be balanced with the number of syllables, the number of beats in each sentence, okay? If something just goes and rambles on, the human ear is very attuned to this stuff and it tunes out. So you have to make sure that, it's pleasing to the ear, there's the right number of syllables, okay? And remember that you're never not closing. You're always closing, okay? Not necessarily the sale itself, but you're closing on that the person should listen to the next paragraph or even the next word that you say, okay? And again, the first 5 words that you say, and this is, I said earlier that I'm sure you've been through the actual straight line course where you've learned that we as human beings, we judge books by their covers. We were taught not to, but we all do. And even the people who taught us not to judge the books by their covers, like our parents, right? Because it's human nature to do that. And really, in the first 4 seconds, the people that you're trying to influence are already making a mental picture of you. So they're going to either judge you as being, that expert, that enthusiastic, sharp as a tack person, or they're going to find you dull and boring and non-enthusiastic, at which point they say, this person's not worth listening to. Okay? So it's very important that those first words, like, you say to someone as simple as, watch, I say, hi, is Pam there? Or, hi, is Pam there? Same words, but the second one comes out upbeat, enthusiastic, sharp as a tack. Now, of course, Pam is not going to buy because I say, hi, is Pam there? But if I say, hi, is Pam there? She's like, ugh, another dull intrusion into my already dull day, versus like, ooh, well, if I say, oh, is Pam there? She's like, what's that? Someone's like enthusiastic. It just sort of breaks somebody's state, and you essentially elevate somebody to a higher state. On some level, influence itself is about, it's the transference of emotion, the emotion of certainty. You're going into an encounter where you're very certain about your product or your service or your coaching or whatever it is that you're doing, and the person's not that certain. So you're transferring that emotion of certainty to somebody else. Okay? So it's very important that you learn to master those tonal patterns, and especially in the beginning, to come off sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and an expert in your field. Next, with your scripts, it's important that you're honest and ethical. Okay? And this is very easy to do, because when you're writing the script, you ask yourself with every single sentence, you say to yourself, am I coming from a place of integrity? Am I coming from a place of ethics? Or am I starting to exaggerate and sort of mislead? See, I will tell you stories. I've written scripts, just so you know, back in the early days when I was discovering the straight line, and I wrote some scripts that were accurate, but they weren't ethical. They weren't lies, but they were some misstatements or really omissions of fact. So make sure that for your own ethical, your own integrity, keep your scripts accurate. Don't include any lies or wild exaggerations. And by the way, just so you know, if you're a sales manager, an owner, an entrepreneur looking to use the script building technology, if you put a script out into your sales force and it's riddled with lies or exaggerations, they know it. And if every day your salespeople are out there hammering away on the phone or in the field and they're telling lies, it starts to seep into your entire corporate culture. And next thing you know, the people will be trying to rob and steal from you. Your own employees will steal from you because they think you're a thief because you're telling them to go out and lie to people. So this idea that you can have a script that's exaggerated and full of deceit, not the thing that's going to permeate to your entire corporate culture, is foolish. So the scripts need to be accurate, they need to be compliant, and they need to really reflect your corporate culture, which is one of ethics and integrity. Okay? So the question I get asked is, well, when should I use my script? And the answer is always. You should always use a script, whether you're in person or on the phone. So you say, well, how do I use a script if I'm in person? Very simple. You have it memorized. You want to know the script so well that you move past the point of the actual words. Remember, 9% of human communication is words. The other 91% is tonality and body language. By memorizing the script, knowing the words themselves, it allows you to do that automatically, so the rest of your brain can be focusing on your tonality, on your body language, and also looking at the person and trying to gather the intelligence, to be able to listen to them closely, not being so caught up in your own head. If you're so caught up in your own words and trying to say them, know them by heart, well, your brain is only so much, your conscious brain is only so much processing power, and you'll find you'll be missing those vital cues that you can get from the other people. Okay? As in terms of how you tailor your scripts, what we typically do is, you'll see as you start writing more and more scripts, is you can pull various language patterns from other scripts and you can make them into a cohesive pattern. And to that end, I'm giving you in the script building technology here is some sample scripts that you can actually model. And modeling is going to just save you a tremendous amount of time to learn, because again, my successes come from trial and error. and from 25 years of writing or plus of writing scripts, almost in a way where I'm a zealot of it. I torture myself over every single word, every single paragraph, every single transition. So learn from what I've done. Model my scripts, translate, take them and use them into your own industry, and you'll have this all laid out in the manual itself. I just want to give you a sort of, visually so you understand this, okay? Now, in terms of language patterns here, we very often talk about, the use of effective language patterns, and really what are language patterns, and, how do you use them to close the deal? And essentially what a language pattern is, it's a chunk of words, maybe a paragraph or 2 paragraphs, that has a defined beginning and a defined end with a specific outcome attached to it. You can have a language pattern that's specifically designed to increase the certainty of your product. You can have a language pattern that is designed to sell your company, one that's designed to sell yourself, right? So when I go to a company and I train the sales force, is really 80% of what I do. Only 20% is actual seminars, 80% is corporate work. What I do is I will actually have the salespeople work and create 5 language patterns, 5 chunks that they can say that are intelligent, that are ethical, and that are persuasive, and that are sexy. 5 about themselves, 5 language patterns about the company that they work for, and actually 5 language patterns that are about the product specifically, that help them sell the product. And remember, again, I just want to go through this. What I mean by that is, remember, we have the 3 10s. We have the 3 10s, right? And that's product, you, and your company. And what we're doing is the language patterns that we're running here for each are designed, if we have 1 here and 10 here, this is our continuum of certainty. Our goal is to get people to absolute certainty, which is a 10, for all 3 of these things. That's what your language patterns are doing, and they're occurring along the straight line. So in the open, this is the close, this is the open. In the open, they might be at a 3 on your product, a 2 at you, and a 1 about your company. And as they go down the straight line, you keep increasing this, moving down this continuum, increasing, boom, until you get to a 10, 10, 10. And then, of course, there are language patterns that lower someone's action threshold, their action threshold, right? And we have other language patterns that help elevate the pain threshold. And, of course, I caution you that when you elevate somebody's pain, I want you to do it in a way that's empathetic, sympathetic. You're not there to make someone hurt. You're there to let someone realize that while they might think that not taking action is in their best interest, well, in the real world where they sit right now, if they don't take action, they're going to be feeling a lot of pain because they're already feeling pain right now. And if they don't make any decisions, don't make any, take any new actions, well, nothing's going to change. So that is ethical, to help someone insert into the pain of not taking action, but it has to be balanced with giving them a solution as well. That, you're the guy that you can help them, that you can, get them to where they need to be in life, their goals, their vision, okay, and move them closer. Now, let me just flip the page here, okay? And lastly of those, we have the introduction, the body of the script, and of course, lastly, we have the close.